All right, so welcome back to day number 18 of our 30 days of Q&A. And today I'm really excited to answer one of the biggest questions, one of the biggest challenges that I hear over and over again. How do I transition from a day job to actually focusing on my music full time? And so Mike said, I'm a user experience professional by day. This is how I provide for my family. I'm a habitual songwriter, singer, and multi-instrumentalist starting from scratch. I don't have any fans. I don't gig. I don't have a band. I don't have fans who would come to see me. I quit social media because I found too much negativity there. And so I have all these challenges. And my biggest challenge is that I can't escape my day job in order to have enough time to the things that I need to do in order to pursue a career in music. This question of I have this goal or I have this dream to make music full time and I want to dive in, I want to go for it, but I just feel like I'm trapped in my existing job, my existing life, and there's this thing that's preventing you from going for it and giving it your all because you feel like you don't have enough time, you don't have enough energy to be able to do it. And there's a few stories that I want to share in response to this one, because I think that the bottom line is this is something everyone goes through focusing on music full time, is this fear that comes up around really giving your all and going all in. And I think that's really what the premise of this is. And for a lot of us, this is the main culprit, is fear of going all in and really giving it a true shot. And some of these things that are coming up around, well, if only I had more time, if I only could do this, is really just that fear speaking and giving you justification for why you don't want to go all in and give it a real shot. And so hopefully this is going to be helpful to help you to get over that hurdle and transition from a day job to focusing full time on your music. I remember when we were first starting with Paradise Fears and we were about to graduate high school. It's rare that you have a moment in your life where you can look back and you can actually identify this is a moment that changed everything. And it was like, this was a kind of a leverage point. Or this is something where there's two different paths in the road, two different forks, and my life would be significantly different if it wasn't for this one moment. And I remember that moment distinctly because it's a moment that transformed my life forever. And without this moment, there's no way that we would have been able to hit number 2 on iTunes with Paradise Fears and hit 24 million streams and tour worldwide. But because of this moment, it set us down that path. And that moment was in the studio with one of our first producers. And this was probably our third album that we recorded, but this is our first album that we actually did it professionally and worked with someone who had worked with some of our favorite artists. And this is a producer who was up and coming at the time, so he didn't really have a lot of awards or anything at the time, but now he's gone on to release multiple multi-platinum records, and he's very successful. His name is Jordan Schmidt. And I remember this conversation that we had with him in the studio, because we are at this point that I think a lot of artists come to, which was at this fork in the road where we were about to graduate high school, and 3 of us had full ride scholarships. And we're deciding, what do we want to do next? Do we want to pursue the band, or do we want to go to college and take advantage of these scholarships? And I remember at the time we were juggling this decision, and we were leaning towards that we were going to go to college together and that we're going to focus on the band part-time, and that we're going to do it in addition to going to college. And Jordan Schmidt told us, you know what, guys, like, if that's what you want to do, then that's totally okay, and you can do that, and a lot of bands do that. But if you really want to be successful with your music and you actually want to do this full-time, it's the bands who go all in, and it's the ones that burn their bridges are the ones who end up being successful. And I know a ton of friends and a ton of other bands who did the going to college, doing the band on the side, and the band fizzles out, versus having that ability to go all in. For us, basically what it looked like was we figured out that we could actually defer our scholarships for a year and have 1 year that we could just give everything that we had to the band and go and focus on it full time and without distracting ourselves. And then if it was working after a year, awesome, we'd keep doing it. And if it wasn't, then we could go back to college and still have our scholarships. And so we decided to do that. And because of that ability to really focus and go all in that year, we're able to go tour hacking and sell 24,000 CDs. And you're like, set the stage for our career with Paradise Fears. And when I reflect on that decision to go all in and focus on it full time, I know that there's not a chance that we would have been able to achieve what we did if we were trying to do 2 things at the same time. This is something I think you're going to hear from the majority of successful people, is that they faced this moment where their back was against the wall, where they basically had to go all in. And there's something that is triggered inside of us when essentially there's no plan B, there's no escape. It's okay, we have to go all in order to be successful. And the analogy that I like to think of is that if you want to learn how to swim and you want your best odds of being successful and learning as quickly as possible, then one of the best ways to learn how to swim is to jump into the deep end of the pool. And then you need to learn how to swim, because it's either like you learn how to swim or you drown. And there's something that kicks in when it comes to survival, where it's like you're not going to let yourself drown. If you jump into the deep end of the pool, you're going to learn how to swim. Granted, if you're like a 2-year-old kid, then you might want to take some lessons. You might want to have an instructor or a mentor or guidance that's going to teach you how to swim. But the bottom line is your odds of being successful, if you jump into the deep end of the pool, even if you're doing it on your own, you're going to flap like crazy. It's going to be insane for a little bit, but then you're going to learn how to swim because you need to. It's like your only choice. Versus if you're just dipping your toes in the pool of your music career, it brings up a lot of resistance. It brings up a lot of fear. If you put your toes in the pool, it feels really cold a lot of times. And it's like, I don't know if I want to jump into that pool. It feels cold, it's scary. Whereas if you just allow yourself to jump in, then maybe you've experienced this before, where you jump into the pool, pretty quickly your body adjusts to it and you get comfortable with it way faster than if you had dipped your toes in the pool. And it's so common, it's so easy to do that. Just dip your toes in the pool. And the truth is that you're not going to learn how to swim by dipping your toes in the pool. You're not going to learn how to make music full time, be successful as a musician, if you're just dipping your toes in the pool. You have to go all in. You have to jump in. And I think it's worth it to find guidance or find a mentor or someone that is a swimming instructor that can teach you how to swim if you want to learn. But at the same time, your odds of, even if you just jump in by yourself, you're going to have to learn how to swim. And so you can jump in, and it's going to make your odds of success 100,000 times more likely than if you're just dipping your toes in the pool. The other analogy that kind of comes to mind when I want to transition from a day job to transition to focusing on music full time is that if you chase 2 rabbits at the same time, then you don't catch either one. And the truth is that if you really want to be successful in your music career, then it's very unlikely that you're going to get there just by testing the water and just by doing it the in between your day job. You're probably going to spend way too much energy and time and focus throughout the day on the day job that you're not going to have as much energy to be able to focus on your music. It is possible if you find alignment with your day job so that you're actually working somewhere that is in total alignment with your music career, then sometimes that can be a nice bridge. One example of this could be performing cover gigs. Let's say that you want to make a full-time living with your original music, then you can make a case that getting really good at playing cover gigs that you're getting paid for but aren't necessarily for your original music, building an audience, might be a good in-between step, because now at least you're generating income more quickly while you're able to focus on honing your craft and improving your performing chops. So there are ways like that you can find alignment, but the bottom line is that what I would recommend if you really want to give yourself the best odds of being successful is, one, acknowledge that there's going to be fear that comes up, and that's totally valid, and it's okay. Almost everything that is worthwhile doing in your life, it comes with fear, and it comes with discomfort, it comes with stretching your comfort zone. And what I would recommend is giving yourself a limited window of time where you're going to allow yourself and give yourself permission to show up and go all in and burn all your bridges and just focus 100% on your music. If this is your goal, look, like if making music full time isn't really the thing that you're dreaming of or the thing you really want to do, then it's totally cool. Like just do music as a hobby. But this idea of, oh, I really want to do music full time, but I can't because I have X, Y, and Z, like a day job. All of us have the same amount of time in the day. And I would venture to say, like, in today's climate of the music industry, there's absolutely no reason that if you go all in and you give yourself space and permission to fail and show up and look stupid and make mistakes and do whatever you need to do that first year in order to figure out what works, that's really what's required. You have to throw your hat over the fence in order to really be successful and transition and do it full time. So my recommendation for you, Mike, and for anyone who's on this precipice of wondering, I really want to do this full time. This is my dream, but I don't know if I can be successful with it. And in order to do this, I'm going to have to quit my day job. And I also look, like if you have a family, if you're not like just by yourself, then you need to have an honest conversation with your spouse and with your family and make a plan. And what I would recommend is making a plan and giving yourself a certain amount of time to focus and go all in on your music. If that's your goal, is to make music full time, give yourself at least 1 year. Give yourself 1 year and say, I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to tell my employer that I'm going to focus on this full time for 1 year and cut out TV watching time, cut out all the stuff that's not feeding yourself, that's feeding your music career, and just go all in. Stop hiding, stop holding back, give it your all. And don't make any excuses. Don't come in thinking I can't be successful because X, Y, Z, because that's just it's your mind looking for a plan B. It's looking for a reason to justify why you can't be successful. So you can explain yourself and save face in the future. You're preparing to fail. If you have an excuse, you're preparing to fail. And instead of doing that, just prepare to succeed and give it your all. Go all in. Assume that you're going to be successful and assume that it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to figure it all out in your first try. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, but you're going to work your butt off. And then at the end of the year, no matter what happens, you gave it your all. And that's something to be proud of, because that's something that when you're at the end of your life and you're looking back, you're not going to regret the things that you tried and you failed if you gave it your best. Right? Like you're going to regret the things that you held yourself back from doing because you were too afraid, because you were worried what people were going to think, or you're worried you're going to fail. You're not going to regret the things that you did your best and you actually went for the thing that you wanted. And so you're going to learn so much through that year of giving it your all and going all in. And so that would be my recommendation when you're really wanting to make that transition from going from relying on a day job to support yourself to transitioning to making music full time. I think it's really just about giving yourself permission to go all in and give it a good year to focus on it full time. When I started Modern Musician, it was at this point where we were touring full time, and we had been touring for about 10 years. And a lot of the stuff that we learned through, like now in the past 5 years, a lot of stuff that we teach our clients, we didn't even it wasn't even an option for us with Paradise Fears when we were first getting started. And it wasn't things that I learned until starting Modern Musician and growing it. And things like paid traffic and funnels and digital marketing. We did most of our marketing organically and doing it like face-to-face and lines for shows and meeting people. So when I was at that precipice and I knew that I was either going to need to quote unquote get a real job, or I was going to have to figure out a different way to provide for my family, I had to find a way to jump into the deep end of the pool and to go all in. And that was like the impetus that really started Modern Musician. And now we have a team of 35 team members, and it's a multiple seven-figure business. And it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the precipice and sort of that throwing the hat over the fence, needing to go all in. And for me, that meant investing in a coach and joining $12,000 a year coaching program that I didn't have $12,000 a year to invest, but I found a way to make it happen. And that was my way to throw my hat over the fence so that I could actually show up and learn how to swim. And the first year wasn't easy. Like I worked my butt off, and it wasn't like at the end of the first year, I was only barely making enough to cover my costs. I remember being about $36,000 in debt after the first year. And looking back now, I know there's no way that we would have been able to grow Modern Musician the way that we had if it wasn't for throwing my hat over the fence and going all in and making a decision. And I even remember, I remember there was this night with my wife, and this is a pivotal moment near the end of that year. I was about to be a dad. Like I had to figure this out, or else I was gonna have to go back to college or get a real job or something. And I remember my wife saying, I need you. We need to figure this out. And I remember in that moment, it was right around the time that at the end of that first year, things were starting to gain traction. I could see that it was working, but it wasn't at a point where it was sustainable. And I knew that I could provide for my family with the business. And it was right around that time where I had to make a decision. Do I stay in for year 2 of this coaching program, invest another $12,000 when I'm $36,000 in debt? And now do I continue down this path of, I can see that it's starting to gain traction, but it's not quite there yet. And in my own mind, I was on the fence. I'm like, do I go all in or not? And I just remember there was something like there was a moment where my back was against the wall and it's look, like I don't I know that it's challenging. I know that it's scary, and I feel that way too, but I'm going to make this happen no matter what. There is no other choice. I'm going to make this happen. And it's okay if you don't believe in me. It's okay if no one else, if anyone doubts me or anyone doesn't believe in me. It's okay if I don't believe me. I'm going to make this happen no matter what. And that moment, if you can get yourself to that point where you make that decision and failure isn't an option. It's okay to make mistakes, right? Like you're going to learn through taking action and through screwing up and making mistakes. That's how you adjust. But understanding that no matter what happens, you're going to stick with it, and failure is not an option. I think that when you can bring that mindset to it and you're willing to go all in and on your music, if that's really your goal, if that's really your passion in life, going all in, failure isn't a choice, then something's going to shift in your mind. And now when you show up, there isn't this kind of hesitancy, there isn't this doubt, there isn't this like dipping your toes in the water. It's nope, you jumped into the pool head first, and now you're going to learn how to swim. And that's how the most successful people look at their goals and look at their life, as they go all in and they're willing to do whatever it takes in order to be successful, whether it means like weathering a lot of discomfort or working and putting a lot of energy into it and failing and looking stupid, humiliating yourself, and being willing to go through whatever the storm brings in order to reach your goal. Okay, this is just something I feel really passionate about because it's something that I've had to go through in my own life, and something that I see holding back a lot of people. And the truth is that it's just fear. It's just fear of showing up and putting yourself out there, and what if you fail? And it's just a wasted opportunity when you have a gift. You have a gift for yourself. You have a gift for the people that need to hear your music, and for the people in your life that you care about, that care about you. If you really want to be a role model for them, then you can't let your fear hold you back. If you really want to be the best role model for yourself and for the people around you, then you need to show up and just go all in and be willing to be successful no matter what. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. And Jeff, I see you got your hand up, so let's bring you on here for a question.
Hey, Michael. So I've made the commitment. I made the jump. I'm going gangbusters. Okay. So that part's not done. That's already here mentally. I'm doing music full time. But even though I'm committing that 8 to 10 hours a day, even though I'm going, the fear factor,
Yeah.
that aspect, it still comes up sometimes. I know where it's hitting because all of a sudden I have 50 things to do and I'm at 30 and I can't quite get to the other 20. Just something starts to shut off. Do you have any suggestions for when, because it's going to happen. And some of it's also based on your goals, correct? I have very high goals.
Yeah.
And do you have any suggestions for getting past that point when it's there and you're hitting it, but you don't quite know how to get out of the middle of that?
100%. Yeah. So first of all, thank you for bringing that up. And I think that's something, if we're honest, then we all experience that. And if you're not experiencing that, then you probably aren't setting good enough goals, because your goals should empower you, or they should encourage you to become a higher version of yourself. And in that very process, there's a transition and there's a transformation and there's a becoming. And the old you has to die, the new you is born. And so that's a scary process, and it's just part of evolution. The last video that I just shared on the 30 days of Q&A, I walked through the 6 fundamentals and the morning ritual. And one of those is the vision map. And I know, Jeff, that you're familiar with the vision map from the program, but this is something that I come back to every day. And I notice that if I don't really focus on the vision map and have that part of my practice and get my morning ritual every single day, then I feel it, and I feel the self-doubt, and I feel stuff come up because I haven't really programmed myself to turn the thermostat and to turn the heat up so that I'm becoming the person that I want to be.
So I'm using that vision map daily. I have it up,
Yeah.
built. I've got the habit tracker.
Awesome.
All of that stuff's in place. But
Yeah.
are you maybe suggesting that maybe I'm not putting the right energy into that when I'm looking at it? That it's becoming more of a routine versus actually focusing on the emotional charge that's addressed to that?
Yeah, it really is like a living, breathing document. So if you do start to feel like it's losing its juice, then I would recommend revisiting it. And I think a big piece of it as well is having the screenshots that you're grabbing from the validation that you're getting from the fans, from the from your mentors, from people that are saying things that are supporting you. Those are the things that I think are really important to have in there to reflect on, and making sure that there's a good majority or a good piece of that you're focusing on reflecting on those moments of accomplishment or those moments of overcoming and those times that you've been in a challenging situation and you've gotten over it. Those are really important, kind of prime yourself to be able to recognize, oh yeah, I've been here before. Like I've been in this challenging situation and I was able to come out the other side and be successful with it. If I was able to do it, then I can do that again now. So I think that there's a couple of things. Like one, there's an acceptance of wherever you're at right now and accepting that fear is just like a normal part of it. And it's actually not a problem if that comes up. That's a good thing. And especially as all of us as performers, right? Like you're familiar with that from when you go on stage and you perform. No matter how successful you get, unless I think there might be some people who this isn't a thing for, but I haven't met them that would say that every single time before they go on stage, there's some fear or anxiety or nerves or whatever you want to call it. But there's basically this energy that comes up that's scary. You could label it as fear. But the best, most successful performers, they just become comfortable with that. They know, oh, yep, this is just part of the routine. And I've been here, I've done this before, and this is actually a good thing. This means that I'm actually putting myself out of my comfort zone and I'm showing up. And then afterwards, you always feel awesome. Afterwards, it's, oh yeah, like this, we called it the post-show buzz when you perform, and then afterwards you get done, and then everyone's coming up to you and taking pictures, and it's just, oh yeah, like I did this scary thing, and now it worked out. And so there's a certain amount of practice that comes with it. But I think reflecting on those moments that you faced, that's a great way to remind yourself that it's okay to have that fear as it comes up, but then just to show up and face it anyways.
Excellent. Thank you. That was good.
Yeah.
I needed that. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. Yep, you got it. Yeah, and Jeff, you're a great example of someone who you have turned your hat over the fence and you've gone all in. And you being here right now, very similar to the way that I've thrown my hat over the fence and been able to grow with my mentors over the past few years. All right. Hey, Laura, what's up?
Hi. This is okay. So I teach this to people. So this is like one of my specialties. And what's really interesting about it is when you're doing, so we have these different, and I'm such a science nerd, so bear with me here. But when you do your mindset practice, so whatever that is, whether it's, I teach meditation, we have these limiting beliefs and patterns that are fear-based, and we think, oh, I can't be an artist because artists don't make money. So that's like a common one, right? So then we stay stuck in our pattern, our day job or whatever it is, and then we never overcome the fear because we're not actually changing that pattern in the mind. But if you're doing your mindset practice, it starts to become possible, and not only in your mind, and not only does it become possible in your mind, but it also starts to manifest in your life.
Thank you for sharing that. That's great. And it reminded me of a really good point, which is exactly in line with what you're saying, is that meditation is an amazing lifelong practice that are benefits for everyone, whether you view yourself as a quote-unquote spiritual person or you're just someone who's scientific and you're looking to improve your productivity. Meditation is an amazing practice that helps you to clear your thoughts, clear your mind. And in my opinion, I think one of the biggest benefits of meditation is, like what you're talking about, is noticing your limiting beliefs or noticing your thoughts, noticing the fear in a way that normally is just subconscious, that we're not even aware of, where we just believe the thought. We just believe it. We think it's who we are, and we don't have the perspective to even notice that, oh no, this is just a program that's going through my mind that was maybe passed on to me from my parents or from my upbringing. But we forget that this thought is just running on its own, and it's actually not necessarily true. Realizing that you have the ability to choose which of your thoughts you actually believe about yourself, and that what you choose to believe is going to impact your life so much more deeply than the actual thoughts themselves, right? Because the thoughts happening themselves, like sure, like they happen, but they don't have power until you actually believe them. And so if you have the ability to sit in stillness and notice the thoughts as they're coming up, and you notice these thoughts that say, oh, I can't be successful because I have a family, or I have a day job, or I don't have enough time, or fill it in with whatever the fear is saying, essentially, because that's what it is. It's just the fear that's coming up, and your mind is trying to keep you safe, which is great. That's what our brain and body has been designed to do, is keep us safe. But the truth is that nowadays, the way that we've evolved, a lot of things that are designed to keep us safe just don't really make that much sense anymore. Like, you're not going to die if you get rejected by someone. But our bodies still think that we are, because we evolved in a place where we grew up in tribes and we had a few hundred people. And if we said the wrong thing to the wrong person, you could get ostracized and then you were likely to die. And so our brains haven't evolved yet to realize, oh, that's actually not, I don't have to be afraid of dying if I fail or if I get rejected. And so I think meditation and sitting in silence and just noticing what's coming up, those thoughts, and having the perspective to separate yourself and notice this thought's happening, but I don't have to believe that. In fact, that's not like there's this other thought that is just as valid. If I intentionally choose to believe that and become that person, that's going to be a much more empowering belief, and that's actually going to pull me closer to my goals. Yeah.
And our beliefs come out of our actions, what we reinforce. And our actions create our life. So even just starting, that's why I think that this program is so helpful, because if you take even just a small action every day, you will eventually come to this place where your dreams are manifesting, because you're putting everything in place to allow that to happen.
100%. I think we talked about this in one of the other videos, this idea of the map is not the territory. And so what that means is we all have a map of the territory. We all have a map of reality, and we have our own belief systems, our own way of interpreting the territory. And these maps, all of us have our own map, but the map isn't the actual thing. It's just an interpretation. It can be a useful guide to help you go from point A to point B. But sometimes there's maps that are based on the territory that are good symbols that kind of point to things. And then there's other maps they might just not be pointing to anything that's in reality. It's just a map. And so I think the awareness that all of our beliefs are actually just a part of this map, and they may or may not be true. And really the only thing that we know is true is this present moment that's happening right now that you're aware of. And even this could be a simulation of sorts, but you can't deny the fact that the appearance is happening and everything is happening in this moment. And that's basically the only thing that we can know 100% certainty, is that I am. That's really the only truth that we really know ultimately, is that this is happening. And you can't say that this is something or this isn't something. If you do that, then it's just a map. You're putting the map on the territory. But if you actually just let go of the map for a second and you just look and you're like, okay, this is the territory. This is happening. And so it's really helpful to have the perspective to say, okay, anything that I believe or anything that I think about what's happening is just a map. And it might be true. And maybe other maps, they can shed some light on what's happening in a way that I'm not aware of. But ultimately, the most important quote unquote map is the map that you create of yourself. In this analogy, there's someone that's holding the map. And if you're going to go from point A to point B on the map, then what you believe about yourself and your ability to get there is going to dictate whether you take those steps or not. And so I think the most important beliefs that you can have are really around your identity and around yourself. And your identity is something that isn't so easily quantified, right? It's not really definable in a normal way. It's like we get to decide who we are. And we could totally go down a rabbit hole with this, but I think it's one of the most fascinating questions of all time is like, who am I? What am I? What is the self? And it's like Alice in Wonderland, where you can go down a rabbit hole and you never really find this answer to what is the self that's separate from everything else. But I think that in terms of achieving your goals and having purpose and fulfillment, that the bottom line is that we get to decide who we are and who we want to be. And that's one of the most important decisions that you can make, is deciding who you want to be. And you get to create that map of yourself. There is reality, but anything that we say about it, any language that we use is just a symbol, and it's just us making the map. And it's okay to have a map. It can be really useful, but it is important to acknowledge that it's just a map, and it may or may not be true, but it might be useful as a symbol. Okay, so I'm gonna cut myself off there because I could talk about this for probably 10 hours. I love this stuff. But hopefully it's been valuable. And I know this is a sensitive topic sometimes for some people, because sometimes we actually can cherish our limiting beliefs, and it can be comfortable. And so if someone's saying, hey, this is actually on you, it can come across the wrong way. So I hope that this comes across in the right way, in the sense that I want you to be able to unlock your full potential and your creativity, and to empower you to have freedom, to be able to decide what you want to do. And to encourage you that if there's something that you feel like is holding you back from focusing on music full time, you absolutely can overcome it, but it comes from within. And one of the biggest decision points that I think you can get to is giving yourself permission to go all in. Give yourself a year to go all in, throw your hat over the bridge. That's not the same. Throw your hat over the bridge, throw your hat over the fence, burn your bridges. And I think that's going to make your odds of success at least 10,000 times more likely. And I think that you're worth it. It's not worth letting the fear hold you back from giving it your all. So hopefully that helps. I'm going to wrap up today. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave a comment in the chat. Smash the like button if you like the video or not. And you can also submit a question if you want to come on here live. If you click on the link in the description, then you can actually submit the question, and you can attend the Zoom call live if you'd like to be a part of it. And until next time.